So the next picture, this is a chap called Alan Fletcher. I'm sure some of you recognise him or have heard of him. He was a real kind of founding father of graphic design in the UK. He was also one of the founders of Pentagram, the company that I joined a few years ago. And Alan had an amazing way of looking at things. He had this real kind of subversive way of just taking things like rubbish and just by kind of writing a very, very clever line on it. I mean, he did extraordinary things. Turned some kind of what appeared to be rubbish into gold dust. And he had a huge influence on me. We became really good friends about 10 years ago. I used to go around to his studio in the evenings and very luckily see him working on things. I'd take some of my stuff that I was working on and we'd just talk and share a bottle of wine. And it was, I suppose it was like mentorship, but it was also a wonderful, wonderful friendship. Anyway, on one of those occasions, I took this picture, which is a picture of a road next to where I used to live, to show him. Now, I'd taken this picture years and years before, and I knew that it was kind of wrong. I knew there was something really, really wrong. I never could sum up properly what was quite going on there. But he took one look at it. He said, "Fuck it, Harry. You've discovered the first ever schizophrenic road. I mean, how can you be an avenue and a road at the same time?" And so then I showed him this one. It was a great moment for me because I had been recording these things, and I said, you know, what's so fantastic about this? It's all about the thinking that's drawn you to do that, and that's not necessarily the actual object itself. And it is nothing other than nonsense, and it's finding things in things that aren't necessarily there, but it just puts your mind in a really great place to kind of discover other stuff. Now, another thing that Alan did a lot of, he loved to corner himself, so he had to do an illustration. There's some wonderful books of his, one particularly great volume called, and it's great in thickness as well as content, it's called The Artist Looking Sideways. And in it you'll see lots of his sketches of how he attempts to do things. So for instance, he had to draw, I don't know, say 50 silhouettes of cats, and instead of taking a pen or a brush or a normal kind of implement, he just broke up sticks and he dipped these sticks into ink, and he did extraordinary kind of very beautiful images of cats. But he only got there by cornering himself. So I set myself a whole load of little tasks where I cornered myself. I gave myself a box, one typeface, and 2 colours. And it was drawn out of some ideas that I had. This is something I did when I was about 9 years old. It was a little sketch of where I was turning words into images without really thinking about it. But that was some thing that I just did so long ago. And then I started doing these things about 10 years ago, which is the box, one typeface, and 2 colours. And again, it's a bit like finding the sign. When you get your mind in the right place, they're very, very easy to decipher. So this is gone but not forgotten. Sorry, this is a very sensitive little thing here. This is splitting headache. That's one more river to cross. And I just started doing these things, and it just went on and on and on. That's more often than not. And is it an image or a phrase or a word? I mean, it's kind of somewhere between the two. That's vanishing cream. And I gathered a whole load of these together. So there's probably about 75 on here. And one Christmas, we sent them out to families and friends as a kind of Christmas present. And this other thing about the schizophrenic road is a kind of sense of energy in things that you do. So when I did those little sketches back when I was 9, I had no idea that they were going to lead me to this other place. So I also didn't know that these became adored by people. They had this whole little energy, and they kind of lived on way beyond me. So a couple of years later, there's a group of writers in London called 26. And on their launch night, they asked if they could use the conundrums to kind of launch this whole new group and society. And I said absolutely they could, and as long as I was able to do the actual conundrums myself. So this is a broadsheet. And I mean, it doesn't take much to kind of work that one out. I think everyone can get there with that now. So again, it just kept on living on. So this is a mock-up of a book. So Alan Fletcher was actually the art director for Phaidon Books at the time. And he said to me, you know, they're such fantastic little things. They'd just make a great book if we just did this. So I made a mock-up of one, and Phaidon were interested. And then Alan died, and I lost my sponsor. And suddenly this whole thing kind of appeared to be disappearing. And it did for a while. And then when I joined Pentagram, every year at Christmas, Pentagram sent out a little booklet. It's like a Christmas card, but it's also a kind of notional thing full of little games. So I think when you become a new partner, and there's 18 partners worldwide, it's a kind of punishment that you get the job of doing that year's Christmas card. You can imagine presenting that to all these other partners. So what I did, I guess I lent on an old idea. So this is a little book that I came up with. So you can just see these little half-hidden notions of things below the cover. So the cover slips off, and you just find the word decipher. And as you work through the book itself, rather than just doing the kind of games that I'd done before, I delved into all sorts of different ways of hiding phrases, and you would print a card shark's kind of cheat. And I actually contacted a card shark, and he told me 52 of these. So each one, sorry, this is so sensitive. Yeah, each one is a trick. And I thought it'd be really great, because if you were sitting there with your opponents, you'd be displaying all the possible things you could do to kind of screw them up, and no one could screw each other up. So, and we called them daft names. We couldn't actually, we didn't want to call them exactly the names of the actual real card cheat. So they just got called funny things that were going on in the place at the time. So this whole thing about a pack of cards being strapped to your thighs were named after the Lara Croft movie. Okay, this is the last little bit, and it's just a bit of fun, but it's about that original spirit of things being apparent nonsense and crap and rubbish. But I actually think hidden in these things, if you just kind of got eyes to look for it, is absolute inspiration. Car park of Euston Station, and you know, you ask someone to stay clear, and then you go and put great big yellow lines across it. I mean, it's just nonsense. This is, I think people will be hunting a long time to find that. This is a building in San Francisco, as if you didn't know. And this is a beautiful thing. I found this in the back street in New York, and it's just, it's like whoever tore off that word just made it 10 times more powerful, because the actual act of removing the word go is just so perfect. And it's thinking like that. Maybe it's just an accident, but it's thinking like that I know one day if I have to do something, I'll find a way, because of the power of that, it'll just help me find a better solution to my own thing. This is English signage design at its finest. Again, Euston Station. Graphic designers, I've got a lot to answer for. This is a train time, again at Euston Station. Kind of unbelievable. That's Barclays Bank. I took a photograph of this because of a little moment in one of Alan's books. So I don't know if anyone has got the book of Art of Looking Sideways. He didn't necessarily take pictures of things. He actually found things. So you could see him walking around the streets of Notting Hill, dragging stuff out of bins and then turning it into wonderful pieces of inspirational design or art or whatever. And one of the pictures in his book is just lovely because it is what it is. Be standing in the right place. This is wonderfully stupid. This was actually called Sky Dry Cleaners, really near where I live. It's kind of like the science questions, wonderfully impossible. But what's even more amazing is they've got the colour blue dead right as well. And this is practically the last picture. This is a wonderful sign that I found in Zanzibar, and whoever pulled out the nail was a bloody genius, because it's far better than anything that whoever put that sign up could ever imagine happening. It's just brilliant. Anyway, so in the spirit of the things that Alan used to say to me, one of the things he did say was, you know, the world is full of flowers if you only have eyes to see. And I think Matisse originally said that, but it is absolutely, whether it's recording dreams, recording rubbish like this, but seeing something beyond it, it's how everything is. I mean, everything is absolute magic. And there's a kind of profound responsibility in, really, if you pare it all down, the future of our culture is really entirely dependent on the quality of our thought. I mean, that's it. And you just have to never let it be anything less than the best you can ever possibly make it do. You know, whether it's a postage stamp or a cityscape, it's all the same. You know, whether it's a dream or a nail missing from a sign, it's all those, everything's connected, everything matters. Anyway, so that is a flower. And this is a flower. This is a flower that Alan drew for me and gave me a a few years ago. And that's that.